Right, so I'm going to explain how to prep the car for painting on, obviously on a driveway, and what you need. This is pretty much the same for kind of any roller paint, but obviously we're explaining how to use Arista paint and do a patina paint job. Now I I prep with a DA. Now you can use hand sandpaper, do it by hand. You can obviously use an electrical kind of orbital mouse if you've got that, or if you've got one of these DAs, it will cut the job time download, which is why I obviously choose to use it. Now obviously the can instructions have different sanding techniques. This is the quickest way, kind of the trade way of doing it, and the way I personally do it. I only have 2 different grades of sandpaper I use. There's a lot here, you don't need as many. You're probably going to need like 2 or 3 discs, but I use 120 grit for this kind of factory finish, and 320, and then I usually use 320 on something that's fresh paint. So I've smoothed the front bumpers of this car, smoothed a few bits and bobs on it. So anywhere that's kind of fresh paint, I'm going to only use the 320 to key it, and I'll show you what you're looking for. Kind of the first thing you need to do before you even get to this stage is remove anything that you can potentially damage by sanding, such as like indicators, mirrors, stuff like that. Just go around, take off whatever you can easily remove. That's why there's no headlights in the front of this, and I haven't fitted the front grille yet. Do that, and then you're on to the stage of being able to sand. So I'm going to show you like a quick walk around the car, just so you can see that this paint's really good for kind of covering kind of different bits of paint, filler, kind of taking a rough tatty car like this and hopefully turn it into something half decent. So yeah, let's have a look around the car. Right, so sander's ready. It's just got 120 on it. If you're going to hand sand it, obviously use 120 grit sandpaper. This process is always done dry. Obviously if it starts raining, it's not really going to matter too much, but if you have electrics, obviously you're going to have to stop. I'm going to show you up close what you're looking for. I mean, you may be able to see from there that this is unkeyed and this is keyed. You need to make sure that you're removing kind of all the shine and the dullness, and that you'll basically see some kind of scratches in the paint surface, and then that gives kind of a good area for the new paint to stick to. So I'm going to crack on. I'll show you up close how it looks and what you're looking for. So hopefully you can see. Take a clean rag, apologies because this one isn't clean, but it's the only one I can find, and clean your panel down, and you should hopefully see the difference. So if it's like this, or it's kind of in between and not as kind of scuffed and scratched, like this side, then the paint just simply won't stick, or it will stick, but if a stone hits it, it'll then can potentially peel off. And that's with any paint, not just our paint. You need to make sure the surface is good, because obviously the paint is only as good as the surface it's applied to. So you just have to make sure that obviously your prep work's done fine. Now obviously I can go over most of the areas with a DA, but awkward areas like this, down here, kind of bits like this, I'm going to use something called Scotch-Brite, and basically that's a padded sanding kind of sponge. So kind of all your low areas like this where you can't get a sander in, you can obviously bend a bit of sandpaper up and kind of sand it in, but obviously Scotch-Brite's loads better. Door handles as well, they would have been took off if it wasn't for the weather potentially raining, so I'm just going to Scotch pad round them. I'm going to leave them in. Just going to make sure when I come to mask it, I mask it off and everything's fine and dandy. So yeah, you want the whole vehicle to kind of look like this, completely no shine, not even a satin shine. It just needs to be nice and dull with a good load of scratches in it, because that is basically the surface that your paint's going to stick to. Right, so hopefully you can see the difference that the sanding's made. That quick bit of time lapse there has only taken me less than 5 minutes, but obviously that is because I'm using a DA. Times kind of where you don't want to scrimp out on this, you just want to make sure it's perfect. Now there's a lot of areas that you can see, and I'll know by cleaning off, that are still going to have a bit of a shine to it. Now it's not helping that it's obviously raining a little bit, so it's kind of a bit smeary, but hopefully you'll be able to see there's a few bits where there's still shine. Again, you want to make sure that's gone. So what I tend to do is when I go around in a minute, or once it stops showering, once I do all the Scotch-Brite bits, I'll go over the top and I'll make sure that there's zero shine on there. It all needs to be a flat colour. If your car's black, it's probably going to be like a flat grey. Red, it'll be like a flat red. You've got to make sure 100% that it's flat, and you can see obviously the key marks in it, which are kind of basically small sanding marks. If you go through anywhere, because you have to be careful of like high spots, like this door bends around there, so if I was to hold the sander on there for a long time, it would wear through this bit before these two bits, and that's called a burn through or a sand through. If you do that with any of the paint, you're going to need to primer it over the top, make sure it's protected before putting your paint over. Our paint, however, you can just apply straight over the top. So if it's rusty paint you're using as your base, don't worry too much if you do obviously burn through when you expose bare metal, because obviously the anti-corrosion stuff in the paint will protect that, and you don't need any primers between metal and the paint itself. Right, so once you've gone around the whole car sanding, it's a case of the last bits with a Scotch pad, for any bits that you kind of can't get with a sander or sandpaper, stuff like this, and if you find any kind of low spots where it's like dents or some of the edges if you've missed, you just basically give it a good scrub. So it comes up the same colour, the grey, which means it's keyed. Do that all the way around, and there shouldn't be many of these parts, but you just want to make sure it's all fully kind of keyed back. Once that's done, set on to the cleaning and masking. Now the first thing I kind of recommend after doing loads of these kind of paint jobs is to use a good quality masking tape. So I used to scrimp out and buy as cheap as I could, but you find it would stick on, it'd leave residue, it would rip, or it'd let bleeding from the paint. So I tend to go for good quality tape. And then for me personally, cleaning it, I'm going to use panel degreaser, because it's probably about £2 to £3 for a litre of this from any kind of paint shop, vehicle paint shop should I say, or if not you can use hot soapy water. So we're going to give it a clean and get it masked up. Right, so I've gone round and masked the whole car up. There's a few bits that I've kind of done that will be different to most people. I'm not painting the door shuts because the weather's awful. I'm trying to get this done in a weekend for these videos. So I'm going to show you how I've hard lined the doors, but basically all the colour will be visible on the outside, but there'll be some of the silver on the interior, which is fine, I can deal with that. Additionally, obviously you've gone around, you've masked everything up, however you'll have probably got a bit of junk and bit of dirt and stuff out of some of the window rubbers and channels by doing it. So again, although it's already been cleaned once, you want to clean it again, ideally, again with a panel wipe or panel degreaser, or if you can't really do hot soapy water once this is on, so you'd have to just do like a clean rag, try and clean it up as best as you can. Once that's done, it's a case of mix up your paint and start applying. Obviously things like wheels, windscreen, you can use sheets for. The reason, because you roller in, you don't really need to kind of mask off all the glass. I'll show you an easier way of removing paint from the glass if you do go on it, but for the sake of masking it all up and taking another like half hour to an hour, it's quicker just to clean it afterwards. So yeah, let's have a quick walk around and check the masking out.